So Apple's WWDC developer conference took place today, and we got quite a few updates. First is iOS 10. I'm just going to scroll through here and highlight the big takeaways. So you can change your message bubbles, change them the way they look. You can scribble. You can do animations. A lot of this is actually very similar, I think, to Facebook Messenger, which is not a bad thing. I mean, Apple wants to keep people using their own software, which in turn would allow them to generate more hardware revenue. Quick responses via tapback. You can draw on videos, which, I don't know, a lot of this seems gimmicky. The stickers is definitely very reminiscent of Facebook. This is confusing the heck out of me. This one here that says, tap to replace emoji. What that says is swap out words with emoji, all with a simple touch. That's something to smile about. I don't know. I honestly don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens when all this comes to fruition. This was one of the big takeaways. Siri is now open to apps. And that, I think, is going to make Siri much better. My hope is that it'll be able to interface with Amazon Prime Music and the Kindle and Amazon Prime Video. You can easily access favorite apps to create and share content, make payments, and all that sort of thing without leaving messages. Again, very similar to Facebook Messenger. They've done a lot to improve maps, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. You can also make reservations. You could send your location from maps to messages. If somebody asks where you are, Siri will go ahead and take care of that. You can search along the route. So it's very much typical, dare I say it, Google-ish. New Home app will allow you to turn on lights, unlock doors, and whatnot. And for me personally, that's not necessarily all that big yet, because the house that I live in is an older house and does not have we don't have any of the technology that could make this useful. They've redesigned Apple Music, and I'm going to be honest, that one scared me a little bit, because I'm already having a hard time enough trying to navigate around Apple Music. That's basically, I just stay in my cozy little corner with the music that I've accumulated over the last 8 years. Raise to Wake, Touch and Go, which is going to allow you to use 3D Touch, which for me is useless because I don't have 3D Touch, to have a quick glance at information. We have rich notifications. Basically, the big two, Apple and Google, are playing catch up with each other, and it's kind of like it's like leapfrog. Contextual predictions. Searching, you can search for photos using facial recognition and whatnot. They've redesigned the News app, which I think is rather silly because I've never used it. To be honest, I don't think with the exception of the built-in messaging app strictly for text messages, except for whenever a friend of mine supports iMessage. That's all I use my messaging app for. I don't use Apple Mail. I primarily use Gmail. we'll get to that we'll talk about that in a moment, because that's actually going to be a bit of a segue into another topic, because there's going to be more here than WWDC that I want to talk about. So there's the News app. A Photos app can help you rediscover cherished memories. I don't exactly remember how that's going to work. This is confusing. Apple Pay on the web. And why is it confusing? Because I never got Apple to pay to work when it first came out. I tried and tried and tried to get it to work with the McDonald's pay station, whatchamacallit. No dice. In fact, I'm considering Samsung's own solution because of the technology. I saw a video that explained how it worked, and the underlying technology doesn't require businesses to invest in a new infrastructure for payment system. And to me, if I were a business owner, I'd go with that, because in terms of an ROI, it's going to be more cost effective in the long run. So I don't know how this is going to work on the web. Like I told you, I haven't used it. I have no intention of using it. I should say I have no intention of using it outside of Apple's own App Store. I have used it for the App Store, and for that it's perfect. Multilingual typing, and that's interesting because me personally, I've never wanted to type something in Spanish and then type it in English, but, and then they have this privacy statement. And then we go into the SDK and whatchamacallit. If I sound underwhelmed by iOS 10, it's because a lot of these features... Now again, I'm not saying that any of this is bad, but if you look at the long term, a lot of people are going for cheaper hardware. That's partially why the iPhone SE came out, was for people that didn't want to spend the $600 or $700 or $800, because if you think about it, a lot of ads that I've seen with Apple recently over the last several years have been targeting the families, family, parents, grandparents, what have you, which makes sense because Apple's ecosystem is very easy to use for the novice, which a lot of, if you're a parent, you have a lot to worry about. And becoming a power user of technology, depending on what you do with your life. For instance, if you're a gardener, you're not, and that's your passion, you're probably not going to be really up on the latest technology. Or in the case of a relative who lives with me, they grew up in a completely different time period, and today's technology is something they could never have fathomed when they were my age. It's those kind of people that I think Apple's trying to target to. In my opinion, because of this, I understand Apple's going for the premium market, but if you want to secure the family person, then you've got to lower your prices. This is strictly my opinion. I must stress this. And I've been an Apple user for 15 years, mainly because I was forced to. For my graphics design in high school. If I was not forced to, then it's very possible that today I could still be using Windows. It's very possible. In fact, it's probably likely that I would still be using Windows today. And, I just think that as far as Apple's overall plan, if you're looking at a phone on a budget, chances are you're going to go with an Android device. So the way I look at it is, Apple wants people to switch over from Android. That's obvious. But from what I understand, in fact, I think Messages was coming to Android. I didn't get to that here because I don't have any details on it. But the last couple of times Apple tried to put an app on Android, it was an absolute flop, a disaster. So I think that what Apple is trying to do, and again, this is strictly my opinion, I think that while, yes, they're certainly going to rope in some new users, I think that they're just trying to hold on to the users that they've got. Because if you look at the worldwide smartphone usage, Google is pretty much taking the cake. In fact, I did some Googling, and it turns out roughly 75 to 80% of the world uses Google Chrome, myself included. You can see Google Chrome's here in this video. I use Google Chrome on my iPhone. I don't touch Safari, to be honest. And the reason I don't touch Safari is because Apple has believed in a closed ecosystem, and they still do to a large extent. In my opinion, I'd much rather have a browser that's available everywhere and know how to use it versus having to worry about juggling 5 or 6 different browsers. Now, like I said, Apple's opening up Siri to developers, and I think that's long overdue. They're also bringing Siri to OS X, or shall I say, Mac OS Sierra. That is going to take some getting used to. It really is, because for the longest time I've been calling it Mac OS X, then OS X, and for the last 15 years it's been basically known as OS X, or Mac OS X or some variant thereof. And then all of a sudden, what do we have? We have, Mac OS, which is it's gonna take some getting used to. So Mac OS Sierra, you can just ask your Mac to do stuff, thanks to Siri. For me, that's the big takeaway from this, because if I'm juggling a couple of documents, let's say I'm reading a book and I'm taking some notes, and then on a third screen I'm working on a separate project, and this is all for my university, let's say, which actually is a very real scenario. And I'm listening to some music to pass the time, just something to keep my mind awake and focused, and some song comes up that I don't like. Well, until now, I would have had to switch spaces, find the song, locate the controls, and again, because I use magnification, navigation can be a bit more cumbersome for me than it would be for somebody else. But now I can just ask, I'll be able to ask Siri just to change it. That is fantastic. That is honestly fantastic. Now, Siri is being opened to third-party developers on iOS. I don't know if they're going to be opening to third-party developers on the Macintosh. I hope so, because I just downloaded Amazon Music for my Mac. Anytime that I'm not on my Macintosh, I find myself using Amazon Music. And that's because one interface is available everywhere. And that means no matter where I am, no matter what I log into, desktop, Android, Fire TV, what have you, my music is right there where I left off the way I have it. And Apple does have that sort of thing going, but it's only within Apple's ecosystem. And to be honest, I'm juggling multiple environments now. So I need something that can basically be available one size fits all. Whether or not Apple Music is going to be that, I don't know. So we have Mac OS Sierra. All it basically says here, in fact, I'm just going to have Siri read this because it's blending in too much. This is nuts. Let me see, is speech... Hang on, let me check and see if speech is enabled. Should be. Oh, it's not. Let's fix that. So I'm just going to have OS 10. I'm going to have Alex read this.
Siri makes its debut on Mac with new capabilities designed just for the desktop. And that's not the only way your Mac is smarter. Mac OS Sierra helps you rediscover your best photos, shop more securely online, and work more seamlessly between devices. It can also help free up valuable storage space. Now your Mac does even more for you, so you can do more with your Mac.
Now that is also something I'm really very much looking forward to. You can see that there are similarities here between Mac OS and iOS, but what I like is the storage, because one of the things that I've found over the years with my past Macs is out of nowhere, hard drive space will slowly be eaten up and eaten up and eaten up. And I'll go in and clean it out from time to time. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know if it's cache files or what. But I remember with my old MacBook Air, I was very close to running out of space. So having Siri manage the space for me, especially since I'm going to be juggling multiple projects over the next several years, big win. Big win. Siri and OS 10, see, there I go. I told you I was going to do it. Mac OS Sierra are the biggest takeaways for me for this WWDC. Now, I can't remember all the other features that are going to be available in Mac OS. I think the big one is Siri. That's at least what I've seen thus far. And then, of course, we have Watch OS. That too has gotten a major overhaul. So with the new Watch OS, apps launch instantly, easier to access, range of new watch faces, including Minnie Mouse, believe it or not. Share your daily activity with friends. The new Breathe app still helps you to stay healthy by taking a moment for yourself every day. Now, for me, I'd much rather use guided meditation. So they also allow you to scribble on the watch screen. And also, and this is really cool, this is where I think Apple kind of screwed up. If you have an Apple Watch, you can unlock your Mac without having to enter your password. Why would I pay $349 just for that one feature, especially if I'm going to be moving to Android with my next phone and thus render the Apple Watch completely useless? So I don't know. To me, I mean, they're great improvements, but I'm scratching my head. And as I've told you before, Siri is going to be open to developers. There's also a rumor that they're going to be developing their own hardware, which will be released, I think the rumors are saying later this fall. It's going to be Apple's own smart speaker to rival the Amazon Echo family and the Google Home. Now, me personally, if I were to get one of these devices, especially after what Leonard McLean taught me, again, thank you very much. For those of you that do not know, you can go ahead and go back to the video where I said, where I talked about things that I hate about Windows. Because in that video, I began by talking about what Leonard taught me about how the traffic in these smart speakers is not always being sent out to the web. So anyway, if I were to get one of these, as I just said earlier, I don't have the equipment necessary to make my home a smart home. So anything stationary to me is out of the question. That also means Google Home is out of the question unless they can create a portable one. For me, if I were to get something, it would be the Amazon Tap. Now, why the Tap? One, it's portable. As I've already stated, I prefer something portable. Two, it is not always listening. And it's not the whole business of being sent to the web, everything you say, everything you do, that I'm worried about anymore. What I'm worried about is accidentally mumbling the word Alexa and having the device think I need something when I really don't. I can tell you that Lamar Wilson, who's one of my favorite tech reporters, he's also a comedian, really funny guy. He he had some reservations of his own, particularly about the Echo Dot. You're welcome to go and see his videos on it. But yeah, so the Tap, to me, would be the perfect solution because it's portable and it integrates with the services that I already use. I am an Amazon Prime member, well worth the cost in my opinion. It's $99 a year for free shipping, free music, free video. I've been able to revisit all of my old shows, and in fact, for For those of you that are interested in the older Top Gear series with Jeremy Clarkson, James May, and Richard Hammond, their new series that's going to be coming out this fall called The Grand Tour is going to be exclusive to Amazon Prime Video, so I feel lucky in that regard. Every single textbook that I've gotten has been a Kindle book, and the reason is because if you compare it to my university, the cost is significantly cheaper. And the other great thing about Kindle is read once and you synchronize everywhere. That's big because I can actually be downstairs reading my book on the couch, then I could come up here and start typing and taking notes from right where I left off in the book with all my highlights there. Unfortunately, that is something that Bookshare.org does not allow. I've already talked to them about this, and they said that basically it was a cumbersome operation from what I could tell, and I don't think they are quite ready to implement something like that yet. It is something, from what I could tell, they would like to have, but I don't know if we're going to get it. So the Kindle books have been fantastic. Whether be it physical or digital, they've been very cheap. And like I said, read once, synchronize everywhere. And this is fantastic because I can keep moving. And the great thing about that in relation to the smart speaker, the Amazon Tap, Alexa can actually read my Kindle books to me. And you can actually navigate chapters in the books. Now, you can't do any highlighting, but because Alexa has no screen, there's actually going to be a device coming out that does have a screen. So no screen. The fact that I can actually have my Kindle books listened to is a big plus, the way I see it. And the speech that Alexa uses has got to be the best electronic speech for listening to books long term that I've ever used, second only to Alex on the Macintosh. So there's the Kindle. There's also Amazon Music. I can tell you that I recently purchased Enya's new album, Dark Sky Island, that came out in November on Amazon Music. And again, the beautiful part about that is buy once and it's everywhere you are. You know, you just log into your Amazon account and everything's right there for you. And you're thinking, well, Apple Music can do this. Again, we go back to the whole business of how the last time Apple tried to get something on Android, it was a complete flop, number one. Number two, Apple prefers things to be centric to their hardware, so they tend to play favorites. Amazon, from what I could tell, does not. I mean, yes, they have their own hardware, but at the same time, the hardware's not their push, not like Apple. The hardware is only a gateway to their services. And as a result, Amazon Music is Amazon Music is Amazon Music. The interface might be a little bit different depending on the platform. But overall, it's the exact same experience. And I think it's just a fantastic plus. Also, Prime Video. I watch all my Star Trek features on Prime. It's rather interesting. Back when I first started with Prime Video, I was considering purchasing one of the seasons of Voyager from iTunes. $47. And I was adding that up and I thought to myself, if I get this and I get more seasons, then this is going to add up quick. Whereas $99 a year flat rate for Amazon Prime Video, you get the music, you get shipping, you get book recommendations every week, you get just a whole slew of stuff that makes it well worth it. Alexa is also on the Fire TV. I've got the Fire TV stick, and it's limited, but it's giving me a roadmap of what Alexa can do. And Apple is, honestly, with Siri, I'm glad that they're opening it to developers. But you have to wonder, what would Steve Jobs think? He's been gone now for 5 years. Tim Cook has taken full reign. I think he's done a fantastic job as a CEO. Um, but at the same time, you definitely sense that there's a different vibe within the company, and I have to wonder if Steve were here today, what would he think about things like the Amazon Echo and Siri and the fact that they're opening Siri up to developers? Mac OS Sierra, I think that he would have approved of. Me personally, that is the takeaway from WWDC for me. Is Mac OS Sierra. Apple Watch, great improvements, but I don't know. I don't see myself buying one. I really don't. It's going to be interesting to see what Siri looks like in her own speaker form. And what I'm hoping is when it comes out that it is not exclusive to Apple services, that it can actually integrate with things like Amazon's Kindle Music and Prime Video service and be a real competitor to the Amazon Echo family. If they're going to keep it closed within Apple's own ecosystem, then to me that's going to be a problem. Google Home is interesting, but like I told you before, it's not portable. I would like something portable, so whatever Apple comes up with, I hope it's portable. The other thing is, I'm not comfortable giving Google my credit card information. Now, I've been an Amazon customer for 3 years with my personal account. 3 years with Prime. But overall, I've been a customer with theirs for 5 years because I had I still have it, the original Kindle keyboard, second or third generation. And if I were to buy something from Google, I would buy it on Amazon because I trust them. And in all the years that I've been their customer, I've never had a problem, save for one support issue that I had, but I can tell you that was not their fault. It was not Amazon's fault. It was the manufacturer of the hardware. And in case you're wondering, go take a look at my Chewy Hi8 tablet video review, particularly the one where I go in and try to mirror the screen. So Google Home and the Amazon Echo are going to be the two primary competitors. Me personally, I'm hoping that Apple comes up with sort of a hybrid between the standard Echo and the Echo Tap. That'd be really cool, especially if it could come up with the ability to integrate with Amazon services. And also, Amazon's Alexa can integrate with Google Calendar. And for me, that's a lot more universal because of the fact that, again, my university uses those services. And it's set up once and it's everywhere. And when you're collaborating, that's a big plus. So these are just random thoughts about WWDC and how, in my opinion, it relates to everything else. All I'm going to say is, Apple, the ball is in your court. Let's see what happens. But it'll be interesting to see what happens because, Amazon's Echo, rumor is they're going to be coming up with one with a screen on it. I think I told you this earlier. That's going to be meant for the kitchen. So, on guard, Apple. Let's see what happens. Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.